Yeah, I got $250,000 in the hotel. I need my lawyer to go get it.
DaBaby is in more serious danger than we thought. He could be looking at the end of his career or even worse. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this one. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Did you want to win any of these items on the screen? If so, be sure to watch the whole video, leave a like, and comment the hidden message. And with that being said, let's get right back into the video. The most recent incidents of DaBaby.
The incident occurred at Novotel Miami Brickell, where DaBaby had been staying following a New Year's Eve performance.
I feel it's important to state once again that these two things we're about to talk about are the most recent incidents involving DaBaby, and they honestly happened really close to one another. So it makes you wonder if he's on a spree right now, or just in the wrong place at the wrong time when these incidents occurred. So let's get into it. First up, in Miami, Florida, DaBaby was held in jail for 48 hours after beating up a concert promoter. How did this come to be? That would be because when DaBaby was contacted to do a concert in the area, he was apparently told that he would be paid $30,000 for the performance. A fair chunk of change, if we're being honest. But according to DaBaby, when he went and approached the promoter at the appointed time to get the money, he was only given $20,000, which obviously is $10,000 short, and DaBaby wasn't happy about that. Not one bit, in fact. So much so that he and his street crew proceeded to go and beat up the promoter, steal some of his money, his phone, and other items on his person as payment for it all.
And stole his iPhone, credit card, and about $80 in cash. DaBaby was arrested shortly afterwards.
Unfortunately for them, this was all caught on camera, so he was arrested and put in jail for 48 hours. If you're curious as to why that short of a time frame, that's a standard procedure when you can make bail. But more than that, they were making sure to hold DaBaby in there because at the time there was an arrest warrant out for him in Texas. So what happened to him in Texas? Well, that's a bit tricky. You see, it was believed that DaBaby and his crew were at an airport in Texas and that he was caught on camera beating up an attendant. The video footage truly seemed to indicate that it was DaBaby doing the damage, which was why the warrant was out for him and that he was going to be transferred to them shortly.
DaBaby on a robbery charge. They did hold the rapper in custody after learning there was a warrant for his arrest in Texas.
But it was then discovered that the video footage wasn't showing everything, and DaBaby was able to definitively prove that he honestly wasn't the one who initiated the fight or even took part in it. So thus the charges were dropped against him, and he was eventually released in Miami. Now to be clear, he's not out of the woods yet, far from it in fact, for while he was proven to be innocent in the airport matter, the Miami beatdown that he did on the promoter is still very much alive. He was charged with assault and not only faces more jail time if convicted, but he's also facing a potential lawsuit from the promoter and his venue. Of course, DaBaby is playing this off, even going to social media to proclaim that he is innocent in this matter and that he will win any suit that is put against him, which he could do. He could prove he is innocent again, and if that is proven, then the lawsuit quite literally can't be put against him. But you have to wonder whether he's telling the truth or not. He's even blasting law enforcement for only putting him in jail for 48 hours. All told, DaBaby does seem to be getting in a lot of trouble recently, and that's not exactly a good thing. DaBaby.
To see people, screaming your lyrics that actually don't even speak English, I'd say.
Absolutely, you get what I'm saying? That's crazy.
If you don't know who DaBaby is, don't feel bad about it. The rap world is full of male and female artists, many of whom have rather odd names and many of them who are usually one-hit wonders. So it's natural for some of this to get lost in translation. So allow me to do a rundown for you on this rapper. First off, his real name isn't DaBaby, obviously. I mean, who would name their kid that? It's actually Jonathan Lindale Kirk. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1991, and by the end of the decade, he moved to North Carolina. Not much is really known about why he went into rap, which is really interesting when you think about it. They usually state out loud what got them into music regardless of what the inspiration was. Whatever the reason, by the time 2015 came along, he knew he wanted to make some music, so that's exactly what he did. His first mixtape came in the form of non-fiction. After its release, DaBaby went on a tear by releasing a series of mixtapes all under the label of God's Work, which many feel is some of his best material. He then did a Baby Talk mixtape series, $1 Billion Baby, and Back on My Baby Jesus, all of which helped him refine his rapping skills, as well as showing that he was willing to do the work in regards to making music and putting it out there for all to see. This may not sound impressive, but you have to remember that saying you're gonna do something is easy. Actually doing it, that's another matter. So for him to go and do mixtape after mixtape to try and show people in the rap world that he's different, that's important. Eventually his hard work paid off and he found himself working with Interscope Records, a very reputable record label. Through them he released his first album in Baby on Baby, which actually got close to the top of the Billboard Top 200 by being number 7. On that album was his hit single Suge, which hit the Billboard Top 100 in the 80s range before getting hot and making it all the way to the number 8 slot. For it to rise that much after after landing that low is a big indicator of how much people like the track. In conjunction with being in Interscope Records, he also has a deal with South Coast Music Group, allowing him to work with both records on songs, which is actually a bit rare these days, as many companies rarely like to share stars, but in this case, it worked out for all parties for the most part. If you were expecting a little more at this point, you forget that DaBaby is technically still rather new in the rap world, and that's part of the reason that his career may honestly be over, because despite all the self-fame that he claims he has, he's more famous for his various incidents than an actual song that he has done. He's had one hit album in Kirk that went to #1 on the charts, but no #1 singles. That's not a good look for a young rapper in many aspects, especially one as loud as him. And again, he's done a lot of things that make people wonder if he'll last in the rap world long term. Self-defense.
Mecklenburg District Attorney's Office spokeswoman Megan McDonald said as a result of the judgment, he did receive 1 year of unsupervised probation.
If you believe the critics about rap, then you'll know that some people think that rappers are destined to get in trouble with the law. Now, this isn't true, but there are times you wonder if it is, like with DaBaby and the incident that happened at a Walmart of all places, believe it or not. The reports state that he was forced to open fire on someone in what he called self-defense. The person he opened fire upon didn't make it, and the police were called in on the incident. DaBaby was charged with carrying a concealed item, but eventually the charges were dropped against him. For that to happen means that either no case could be made against him, or that the evidence presented proved there was indeed a self-defense incident. We'll never truly know. In terms of his life and career, this was the best case scenario. He took a life and got away with it in many ways. He wasn't even charged for the illegal piece he was carrying. North Carolina has very different control laws when it comes to firearms than other states, which would have easily been something much bigger for him, yet he was let off. But what does this tell us? It shows us that he's a guy who's willing to get violent and willing to go to the ultimate extreme in order to keep himself safe. While this may seem heroic or logical in some fashion, you have to wonder what would have happened if he didn't have the item. We'll never know, but this might just be a teaser of things to come when it comes to DaBaby, especially since not long after this incident, he found himself in another altercation. One that got DaBaby back in the headlines for the wrong reason, a pattern that may continue if he's not careful. What's that? Do you think that this was his worst incident? Sadly, it's not. The Louis Vuitton incident.
The footage come out, all them hits. Nothing broken.
DaBaby was in a Louis Vuitton store, and during that time he found himself confronted by another rapper named Cam Coldheart. The two had an altercation that mostly happened off camera, while things that were shown did clearly show the outcome. Mainly after the incident, Coldheart was on the ground and trying to recover from the altercation. As for DaBaby, the worst of the incident that he got was apparently an arm injury, one that he happily showed off at a house show, and cited all sorts of things about the altercation in a song to the crowd, as well as making posts on Instagram highlighting things about the incident. Police harassing me, searching my cars, squeezing on my little her hand, and as for the song he did for the crowd, I thank God for letting me go off that till my hand broke. It gave me an excuse to use this headset microphone, he joked. So what exactly do we learn from all this? That would be that DaBaby doesn't care about resorting to violence if he feels it's necessary, and he's willing to scrap if they approach him with ill intent. Granted, we don't know everything that happened in that situation and what led up to it, and we don't know who threw the first swing. That really isn't the issue here. What happened afterward was honestly what mattered. He got in a conflict, then rapped about it on stage, which shows that he doesn't feel remorse for what he does at times. Not like before, DaBaby wasn't charged with anything or arrested, despite police looking into the matter. But the rapper is on their radars, especially in his home state of North Carolina. So you'd have to think that his actions will eventually get him put away for a long time, especially if he feels that he's not exactly doing anything wrong. And to further prove that this incident he had with Coldheart wasn't something that just happened and then he walked away from it, DaBaby also pantsed Coldheart in a sign of humiliation. So that proves he's also willing to be mean to people in a rather evil way, which isn't a good thing for him in any stretch of the imagination, because should he go to jail for the long haul, he'll find himself in a position that isn't welcoming. Mainly he'll try and act tough, but he'll learn real quick that there's a hierarchy in jail that isn't to be messed with. And while it's fair to say that DaBaby isn't a pretender when it comes to violence, that doesn't mean he can hash it out in jail. Plus, celebrities in jail don't tend to do well, especially when they're the kind to make waves and try to get in everyone's faces. Who is he really?
It's out of my music, and it's been my pleasure to bring that sound, that lifestyle to the mainstream.
Now, DaBaby did an interview once for a website, and in it, he describes what he is and what he isn't. Even the interviewer noted that he appeared to have great self-discipline, a direct contrast to the acts mentioned above. And when asked about why he acts a certain way, DaBaby noted that it was natural for him to do things as he does. I don't see the point of being overly serious. You're more marketable when you're willing to do whatever. People think it makes you less of a man, but in reality, it makes you more of a man, more of an individual. The more you try new things instead of trying to impress the crowd. You don't need to put a frown on your face to get your point, there's something to gain from not being like everybody else. Less angry and less serious. And you'd be under normal circumstances, more power to you, but that mean mugging ain't the way I want to live, personally speaking. According to him, what he does in his music and his music videos are meant to be comedic, and while he isn't the first person in rap to do such a thing, Busta Rhymes and Ludacris also did things like that, he admits that he's doing the comedic style of rap because it's what he likes to do. I really just do me. I'm not afraid to be creative and push the envelope when it comes to creating a vision for my music. I'm not doing comedy so much to break stereotypes, it just happens naturally. Every rapper doesn't need to be a tough guy in the video staring into the camera like they're going to scare somebody. It doesn't need to go down like that anymore. I'm making it okay to have fun with your content. If you were to hear this interview before coming to this video and hearing about all the things that DaBaby has done over his career and his more recent stunts, you might think that he is a very nice and peaceful young man, that he was trying to buck the trend or stereotype against the rap industry. Yet clearly that's not what's going on here. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words, and DaBaby's actions have spoken very loudly in the past year, and he has made no attempt to hide some of the things that he has done. He even referenced the incident at the Louis Vuitton store in one of his videos just to help poke fun at Cam Coldheart even more. So that doesn't seem to imply self-discipline or just trying to be funny for funny's sake. People need to laugh. I know personally, I find humor in any situation, good or bad. Once you make a joke about hardship, you feel a whole lot better. So I try to have fun with whatever I do and things I do for others. It'll all come around. As any comedian will tell you, there are many kinds of comedy, and while humiliation is a form of comedy, it's not for everyone. And while in the form of a joke it's nice, it's not nice when people find out the things you really did for said humiliation. And that brings us back to the question of truth and what he believes is true, because by his own admission, he doesn't think he's doing certain things wrong, and yet clearly he is. This is yet another factor in what might lead to the end of DaBaby in terms of his career, because he thinks he's being funny in some of the stuff that he does, but what he's honestly doing is cruel and inhumane at points. He probably felt that he was justified in him and his crew beating up that promoter and then stealing his stuff, but he wasn't. There were better and more efficient ways to get what he deserved, and yet he went for the worst possible option. That doesn't signal that he's a good man or a funny one, just a ruthless and mean one. This makes him a lot of enemies, and that hatred could reach him in jail should he wind up there. What is his fate? There are two sides to every story. This is known, but the problem with DaBaby is that while he has been justified in doing some things, like the self-defense incident more or less, and been completely innocent of other things like the airport incident, DaBaby doesn't paint himself as someone who is truly innocent. He mocks people, and he tries to show how tough he is even when it's not a necessary circumstance. DaBaby goes out of his way at times to paint himself in a light that is not even close to what he should be doing in order to better his career. After his recent stint in a Miami jail, he brushed off what happened to him and stated that he was still focused on music and his works. But is that really true? Because more times than not, we're talking about him because of his various incidents with the law and other people versus him making chart-topping hits. Despite what you think, music is not a genre that is stagnant. Whether you realize it or not, it flows, it twists and turns, and it evolves. Usually because some people rise up to help change the perception of what music is. Rap is definitely a result of that, and many within the brand go beyond what is expected, and that's cool. It also makes something that is hard to keep relevant in if you're not careful. You can be famous one minute, but then be shown up by someone else the next. The legends of the craft are the ones who go full stop to make themselves a success. Whether DaBaby does that is very much up for grabs, whether he wants to admit it or not. And there you have it, an examination on the recent things that DaBaby has done, both good and bad, and a look at whether his career is well and truly over. Do you think that DaBaby will face more jail time for his recent stints with the law? Or do you think he'll continue to get off? Will he ever truly just focus on his career? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe. I'm King Trending, and I'll see you next time.
A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad Mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's really your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.